Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, my fellow flattened pennies where they put like the little faces or whatever on them from amusement parks.
Where you do that big ratchety thing?
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hi.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast. Today, we are talking about Tales from the Loop. But in order to talk about Tales from the Loop, first, I think we need to talk about who's cool.
Well, who is that?
Rather appropriately, one of our trash elite, a guy from Ohio, and Rob. And then the rest, that's going to be DG, Distru City KTL, on the tip of your tongue, Drake Starstorm, Thomas Austin Jr., Passion Killer 711, and Kitty Holbrook, without whom we would not be doing this episode. So thanks to you, Kitty, for introducing us to this interesting television program. This is Tales from the Loop, based on the book full of paintings of the same name by the artist Simon Stalenhag. I might not be pronouncing that right, but that's the best I can do. Who actually, I've seen his art before on Tumblr. He's made a lot of really incredible, moody pieces of like giant weird robots in mundane situations.
I'm gonna be honest, finding out just exactly now what the inspiration for this series is, this makes a lot more sense.
We're gonna do a spoiler-free review first. It is safe to say that neither of us were huge fans of this series, but I'm gonna try to not be a dick. Because, you know, a patron paid for it, and I appreciate that. I would not have continued watching it after the first episode if I was just watching this for fun. Because this year I have started a lot of TV shows and just kind of watched an episode of it and gone, I don't think this is for me. But there were a couple of episodes that I really did enjoy. And I would have to also say that it is very good sci-fi. And it's a very specific kind of sci-fi I really enjoy. I was really into Ray Bradbury when I was in middle school. And so it does evoke a lot of that sort of ominous, unexplained, but yet mundane, cautionary tale sort of sci-fi. But it is something I've been used to for most of my life, so it doesn't feel very novel. Whereas I think somebody coming across this for the first time might be really blown away by it.
I think a good spoiler-free for me, a good spoiler-free review of this show is if you like the idea of a science fiction series that is based a lot more in tone and atmosphere than in plot, I think you'll like this a lot, actually.
I think it does do a great job of creating mood. It feels very bleak Ohio. I get that vibe.
It's set in bleak Ohio, so like...
Less charitably, most of these episodes could have been half as long.
So here's the thing. White nailed this, and we're getting a little away from spoiler free, but I want to try and line this out quickly. White nailed the comparison to Ray Bradbury. Specifically, a great example is this. The story, almost all the episodes of this show fit in the Velt Ray Bradbury.
Yes.
See, the thing about those is that they're short stories.
Yeah.
They get in, they get out, they don't waste a lot of time. It's basically Rod Serling standing in front of a big door in the middle of nowhere going, wouldn't this be fucked up if this happened? And then a fucked up thing happens. And then he comes back and goes, fucked up, right? That is where Ray Bradbury-esque fiction is at its best, when there's no fat. I recently, on a different series we do, mentioned the engineer's maxim. A thing isn't perfect when there's nothing left to add. A thing is perfect when there's nothing left to take away. This sort of science fiction, I feel, and this is a personal opinion thing, is best when there's no fat left on the premise. When there's nothing left to take away. It makes it more impactful.
There is something that I feel would enhance the viewing experience of this show. And I'm not trying to be derogatory. I am being honest. Weed. I don't do a lot of recreational marijuana, which is completely legal where I am. but I still don't do it. I have tried it once. And I remember the headspace I was in. And I could see somebody a little zooted sitting down and watching this show and being like, wow. And taking a lot of the concepts and the moody, atmosphere and enjoying it more than my ADHD ass was able to, getting impatient with long shots of, flat skies and flat fields of dead soy.
For not being a Zoomer, I have intense Zoomer brain rot as it regards to...
You watch a lot of Twitch.
Yeah, a lot of Twitch, a lot of YouTube Shorts. I've got... My attention span is fully fucking cooked. I found that out watching Tales from the Loop. Maybe I should have had Subway Surfers up on the side. But this is good. I want to be clear.
Yeah.
This is a good series. This is very well made, very effective sci-fi.
You made the comparison after you had finished the series to Ms. Marvel, the Marvel TV show.
Which Ms. Marvel is one of my favorite characters in Marvel. She's one of the few I have literal physical comics for. But, as you were pointing out,
it's not for you.
The show is not for me. So you know what I did? I left. I backed out and said, that's fine, bro. Not everything's got to be for me. They made this show for a group of people who needs a show more than I do. I've got lots.
Yeah. I think the other problem with this show is that there's not a lot of principal characters that I felt empathy toward, or that I wanted to see myself in the shoes of, or could relate to.
Which absolutely is perfect for this type of science fiction.
Sure.
You're not really meant to empathize with the main characters. You're meant to sort of just take in the fucked up thing that happens to them. Like, wow, yeah, that was fucked up. And then, again, Rod Serling comes up and goes, wasn't that fucked up?
I think maybe part of the trick with that is that they do reuse a lot of... There's like a central cast.
There is a central family unit that most of the series is about.
And there's like neighbors and stuff that you might see as a guest in one episode that are more prominent in another. So, like, it really... Getting to see these characters again and being like, oh, right, it's the idiot who did that. Oh, right, it's this jackass that did this horrible thing a couple episodes ago, and now I'm supposed to feel bad for him. I don't.
Well, like, why am I meant to empathize with you? Literally terrible human being.
Whereas, in a vacuum, I think I might have been able to enjoy the, wow, that's fucked upness of it all just a little bit more.
But, like, So oftentimes on the podcast, you'll hear me talk about the other half of this coin. A thing I don't think is very good that I love regardless, or in some cases because of that. Rare is the thing where I am confronted with a thing that is good that I didn't like.
This got some pretty good reviews, and the negative reviews were along the lines of what we're saying. Like provocative but boring.
But I want to get into the meat.
Yes, I think that is the best way to address this series, is actually talking about the show itself, the episodes. There are 8. We're probably not going to belabor each of them too much. And it's been a lot longer for me watching this than it is for you.
Full disclosure, after the first episode, and with the exception of episode 7, which my friend suggested was actually quite good and worthy of my full attention, I watched most of these with a browser extension to speed up Amazon's video player to 1.25 times speed or 1.5 times speed, and that really helped. So my opinion is somewhat ameliorated, is somewhat like impacted by the fact that I didn't watch these as intended. I turned the giving a shit about this difficulty meter down.
Which, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. I wish I'd considered it. I probably would have been able to digest it a lot easier. These are 58-ish minute episodes, and that's not like a problem in general, but they are so dedicated to establishing and continuing atmosphere and mood that I, as a flaw with myself, get impatient.
Once we're done going over the episodes, there's a point I want to make, but it's better if I wait till the end.
All right, I hope you remember it.
Me too.
So episode 1, yeah, we're going to get into spoiler territory. I'm not going to try to get to point by point. We'll probably just do a brief glaze over, but there will be spoilers inherent in that. So
A bunch of this is going to be talking about plot, and again, I feel the plot of this whole series is very secondary to mood, atmosphere, and tone.
yeah, if this is something you want to watch, leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate you. Head to that Patreon if you want to request something yourself. There are various tiers for various levels of entertainment. And yeah, thanks for watching. If not, if you want to hang out and hear our opinions, here we go. So a little girl is wandering through the woods. Her house is gone. She goes to school. She comes back. Her house is gone. She wanders around, finds a little boy. They meet his family. And I mean, I'm summarizing this quick, but like, this is kind of giving my issue with the series. It turns out she got time displaced. This whole setting, this fictional town of Mercer, Ohio, takes place on top of a subterranean laboratory with a big, weird black sphere that appears to cause all of these strange phenomena and technology.
He is giving way more credit to the coherence of the underground thing. There is a black sphere. It appears to cause at least a few of the weird things that happen, but in no way is it implied to cause all of them.
I feel like it's, like, if not emblematic of or the cause of, it is significant to the Loop, that's the organization's research.
Yeah, it's a big science building that does weird science stuff. That's all you need for the series. It doesn't need to make sense. It does weird science stuff.
And that was highly intentional. You know, the artist did not explain why the creatures were there, what their intentions were, where they came from in his paintings. Intentionally so, as to create that sort of uneasy atmosphere.
And in a piece of art, in like, a still image, that's great. You don't need to explain that stuff. In a series where I'm supposed to give even the remotest shit about the plot, I should probably know at least something about what the Loop is trying to do. And it's not that they don't even address it. Several characters literally ask people what the Loop does, and they're basically told, like, it's DM magic in response.
The line is, we make the impossible possible, but it's never really, like, there's no really good definition for...
So that was the first thing that impacted my ability to give a shit about the series, is that we never find out what the Loop does, and in fact are directly pointing a person down the barrel of the camera, told it doesn't matter, it does weird science stuff, stop asking, on a few different occasions.
And I'm kind of okay with that, but it is one of those things that the longer you stare at it, the more holes it creates.
And fills in by the very nature of, I mean, it might make sense. This all might make perfect sense depending on what the Loop does. We don't know that and aren't told.
But the little girl turns out to be a woman who lives in the village from the past, in the town. And she helps her go back in time or something.
Yeah,
she
basically sends her back in time to where she's supposed to be, because she remembers when she was a kid, she went forward in time one time and then wrote it off as like a weird dream. And so she followed the steps she knew from when it happened to her as a kid would work, which I need to be clear is absolutely a grandfather paradox. That is episode 1, fucking right out the gate. That's, you knew it would work because you saw it, because it happened to you when you were a kid, but you only did it because you knew it would work because you saw it when it happened to you as a kid, but you only did.
So we have to be viewing this from a future point in time where this has already worked. We don't know the original, What
was their original?
Yeah.
They immediately kick you right in the dick and go, logic isn't this. Logic doesn't live here. That's not what lives here. The Loop lives here.
Yeah. I thought this episode was a little weak. It's probably the moodiest and scenery observingest of all of the episodes.
Bootstrap paradox. Got the wrong name. But it sets tone.
It does. It does a wonderful job of setting tone. You absolutely know what you're in for when you watch the first episode. Even if I think the actual sci-fi plots of all of the rest of the episodes except the final one are better.
And this episode also establishes some facts about the town, which is the town is some sort of weird time vortex where nothing changes over the course of like 20 years, maybe 30 years.
It never specifically establishes a timeline except for like the last episode, and even then that's vague-ish.
But like this little girl takes a long time to realize that it's the future now because everything is the same. The street lights are the same. All the cars are the same. In like 30 years, nothing has moved in this town. And look, in some places in Ohio, that's just fact.
Now, I live near a town that is like that. But I digress. The second episode, Transpose, a pair of teenage boys find a weird orb that lets them switch bodies.
They find a Freaky Friday orb.
Yeah.
They Freaky Friday. And then after a couple days, the one who's in a shittier like life position, despite being like more popular in high school or whatever, they're coming to the end of their high school experience, and the popular high school jock kid is like, wait, oh shit, no, my life's gonna be way worse than this guy's. I'm just gonna keep this one. I'm not switching back, which causes his friend to have a breakdown about it and immediately go to the Freaky Friday orb by himself to try and just forcibly switch them back. That didn't work.
It's pretty heavily implied and eventually revealed. He gets switched into the body of a weird robot that wanders around town for no reason. And leaves his body good and comatose. Well, his friend's body.
Yeah, the original Jock Kid's body is comatose.
Now, Jock Kid did try to make good on this after like an additional day of going, you know what? That might have been a dick move.
That's what I'm doing is actually evil. I think. And that's how he finds the comatose, his former body comatose. His friend having, as far as he can tell, died because you stole his life, you fucking sociopath. I'm kind of nailing this hard because there's several future episodes where we're expected to sympathize with this fucking asshole, and I don't. There is no bad thing which could happen to this piece of shit that I would not cheer.
And there's some later stuff that complicates this. You know, he realizes he's left behind his siblings. He has effectively
ruined his parents' life.
And the new family he's with, the little brother, he doesn't empathize with him because he's not his little brother. Whereas he and the original teen had a very close relationship.
Ruined his original family's financial status, ruined their mental health.
Yeah, I mean, he messed up pretty bad. If this were a one-off, if we didn't see these characters again, I think I would have liked this episode a lot more because I think it takes that fantasy, not like, you know, sword and sorcery, but that fantastic concept of the Freaky Friday and holds a dark mirror up to it, and I like that.
If I didn't see this guy, if I wasn't forced to interact with this guy again, I would not be as mad at this character.
No.
It's that I am forced to interact with this guy like 9 more times over the course of the 6 episodes after this, and I don't like any of them.
Episode 3 is Stasis, the girlfriend of one of the teens.
The body snatcher.
Yeah. She finds a weird device that she fixes up and lets her pause time, which she uses to have a secret relationship with another kid in town, another teen in town.
Yeah, a perfectly normal teen who's like just a nice guy.
He has some sort of, as the Wikipedia puts it, foot disability, which is a strange pair of words, even though it's just accurate.
Yeah, that's just how that's called. That's, you know, the name.
Yeah, they freeze time for like a month, make out, fall in love, and they're like, all right, let's get back to the real world. And then, I don't know, it just doesn't go well.
So this episode opens with like a monologue from the girl, essentially talking about how she loves like the first 2 weeks after you fall in love with someone. That period of time when everything's perfect and it seems like time slows to a standstill and nothing is bad and everything is great. You know, the honeymoon period. And then once that stops, she hates it. And immediately, like, breaks up with whoever that is and moves along because she only likes that first little golden period. The time stop orb thing is like, in a sci-fi way, It's an allegory. It's
kind of showing that this was the first time she ran into that, I think. Because before then, she felt stuck with the guy she's dating. Body swap teen.
Yeah, it's implied that she's done this as like a normal person of breaking up with someone after a couple weeks a few times. Like, in the opening monologue. Because that's why she already knows she likes that.
I would have taken that as more of a reflection. Because...
Like, this is this, like the beginning of the movie Ratatouille. Yep, that's me. I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Kind of, because she gives off that she feels stuck with this guy because they are already dating, much in the way she sees her mother as being stuck with her father.
Yeah. I agree entirely.
Yeah.
And then she gets the time stop allegory orb and uses it to basically do what everyone says they do with a time stop orb. Walk around naked in the middle of the street or steal a bunch of shit from a store. Just be a degenerate asshole.
And it's, I think, I don't remember exactly what the thing is, but she freaks out because she finds her mom cheating on her dad during the time stop. It shatters her worldview. She and the new guy have an argument, and he...
The tension starts when the new guy implies that he might want to leave the time stop at some point ever.
Yeah.
And she immediately starts freaking out because everything's perfect. Nothing's moving. Everything is, exactly as it is. And when we first get together, that's amazing. I don't want to move on. I'm a child. I have no sense of, things must continue.
So this is a real thing, especially with relationships, and I'm saying this both for the benefit of the listener and for you as well, and in case you weren't aware. A lot of people, IRL, struggle with this.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm aware. It's a known phenomenon.
Yeah, the chemical boost you get with a new relationship, when it fades, suddenly it's not good enough, and they just want to chase that boost again.
Yeah, this is why I figured that she had already had this pattern.
And you might be right. It's just not how I took it.
It's a known phenomenon.
Sure.
People like the honeymoon period of a relationship. You get a huge boost of oxytocin, and everything feels great because you're on drugs.
In another way as well, she's escaping a life she's unhappy with. So is it so much necessarily in this situation about the new boyfriend and how that feels, or is it the ability to walk away from your problems and continue on?
And to be free of social convention,
Sure.
and to be free of social expectation,
Yep.
and to live in the beautiful house that you've been looking at that you've always wanted to live in because you can just break in and live there, because what are they going to do? They're stop time.
And that's something about why I think seeing her mother, despite how, I don't know if strict's the right word, judgmental anyway, she can be about her daughter's behavior, seeing her shrug off the responsibilities of a committed relationship for her own, personal needs or what have you, kind of shatters what she's been led to believe, the example she's been following so doggedly. And,
Resentingly.
And resentingly, yeah.
Then there's this moment of when she looks and sees her mom is happy for a change while she's in the middle of fucking this guy. They happen to stop time right then. But she sees a smile on this woman who she apparently lives with and has never fucking seen smile. And she can't bring herself to even be mad at the woman anymore. She says some mean shit to the other teen. They break up. Blah, 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 blah. Episode over.
Yeah, they resume time. I do like that in future episodes people are talking about how, someone broke into my house, but they just took, some lunch meat.
That's... This being basically one little town does allow for that wonderful interleaving. Again, if most of the episodes weren't one family, I feel like that would have been better.
This one I don't feel like we have as much to talk about. It's called Echosphere. I do want to praise the performance from, let me get his real name so I don't just call him the dad from Pirates of the Caribbean, Jonathan Pryce. I think he does a great job.
As the High Sparrow.
Sure. That came after, but yes, he is also that. He is the guy in charge of the loop. And the other, I think, main character, you could call it, is Cole, his grandson. He features in a lot of the episodes.
Yeah, if there are main characters, it's those two and his daughter-in-law.
Yeah. And definitely not his son, George.
His son, George, is the main character of exactly one episode where we find out how George ended up like that.
So the short version is that the granddad that the High Sparrow reveals to his grandson that he is dying and he doesn't have long left. The grandson has to come to terms with that. It's dramatic. He is insisting that he can use the loop, the power of the loop, to save his grandpa. You know,
He's a child. That makes sense.
And I think
he lives in sci-fi land. Maybe he can. Who knows?
I think without the, you know, the structure of the sci-fi around it, it is just a really good sort of, not the usual coming of age tale, but in the words of Top Dollar from The Crow, they say childhood's over the moment you know you're going to die.
And this is very much having to confront the loss of his grandfather, even though his grandfather's still around, and having to, you know, confront the implication of that loss.
Yeah.
And absolutely right. This is definitely a coming of age little story. This is definitely a stepping past the threshold for this character.
Mm-hmm.
And it also is a story about, you know, the grandpa, Russ, and him holding up and trying to maintain his stance as the obvious patriarch of this multi-generational family unit in the face of the dying light, and refusing to be emotional about it and approaching it very logically and quietly breaking down and sobbing when he's by himself.
It is giving Ohio.
It is excellent, very affecting sci-fi. This one was probably one of my more favorite episodes of the series because it was so well done.
One of the things I do like about it as well, and it's another thing that's emblematic of Tales from the Loop in general, is that this grandfather character is not entirely sympathetic. He's kind of a jackass.
At this point, yes. At later episodes, we'll reveal he's actually a monster person. But at this point, he is already established as being like a stern, hard-assed old man.
Yeah. And that makes sense for someone who's an old scientist, very pragmatic,
who never took a day off.
Yeah.
But is wise enough now in his old age to look his successor in the eye and go, if you want some advice you aren't going to take some sick days. Because it'll go fast.
Yeah.
And that's so good. That's such good advice. That's advice you should take.
Yeah.
Listener. Take some fucking sick days. Time moves. It comes at you fast. You'll blink and it'll be 10 years later.
It super does, dude. Especially living in the
time.
Living in the post-pandemic world, time is a joke anymore. Yeah, it was a pretty good episode. Honestly, it was really solid.
I really liked this one.
I like this next one, number 5, Control. Here we spend time with the family of the comatose body.
Yeah, of Jock Kid's family.
Yeah, of Jock Kid's family.
The body snatcher.
The daughter is...
I don't remember any of these characters' names.
They're written here, but like that's not going to help y'all out. So, and we're going to talk about them briefly. It doesn't matter. The daughter is deaf. So this was kind of one you had to pay a little more attention to with the subtitles. And it's very, this feels a little more cautionary tale sci-fi. It really flirts with, we're going to do something really stupid because people in these situations do something really stupid. And I'm glad they pulled back from the edge. It's nice to see people in this town, in this universe, do the reasonable thing at the end of the day. Usually. So, he starts hearing noises outside. There was a guy outside looking at his daughter's window. The daughter is like 10 or something.
So he reacts like any father would if there's an unknown adult male looking in your 10-year-old's window. He goes to get himself the local equivalent of a big fucking gun.
Which is a robot. It's actually the title card you're looking at here is the father and the daughter controlling the robot with the backpack and power glove.
And it's a cool robot that is like, it has one arm... And you have a power glove, and the robot mirrors your movements, and it's great. And again, I wish to be clear, this dude's reaction to this situation, perfectly reasonable. Kill guy with giant robot who's staring in at my 10-year-old? Yeah, perfect. A+.
So the problem...
A+ dad work.
The problem enters in is that the guy who's staring at him is his son in the body of another person.
Yeah, it's the body snatcher.
Who is coming to the window at night to talk to his sister, whom he loves a lot.
I wish he had gotten by the robot.
Well, yeah, of course you do. Yeah, they spend a lot of time in this episode about the family mourning. They really show how this comatose child, this teenager, has torn them apart because he was, a light in their life.
Ruining them financially and has ruined their interpersonal relationships. And again, this is all this kid's fault. But They from the perspective of these characters, to stop memeing on this one little asshole, this is a story about how grief and hospital bills can ruin your life. It's such a mundane American story.
It is. And the dad stops sleeping because he's so dedicated to watching over his family. He's starting to slowly fray around the edges.
Because he feels like he's, as the very unsubtle... this show isn't subtle. Title card says he feels like the giant robot allows him to take some control back in the life he feels is spiraling out of it.
But like eventually he just kind of, well, he almost kills his daughter with it. The wife, like not like as a mean guy, but the daughter is hiding in the shed. He thinks the daughter is the adult man, and he attacks through the wall.
He said he warns us, "Hey, get out here! I can see. I heard you." She's deaf. It's well established.
Yeah.
So there's almost a terrible accident. His wife and child leave him. He is forced to confront that he has allowed this illusion of control to take away the reason he wanted it in the first place. So he acts like a grown-up. This is what you're talking about. He does the reasonable thing. He acts like a grown adult. He sells the fancy sports car that made him feel good about himself. And he fixes his fucking house. Which had been established, the money he used to buy this big robot probably should have been used to fix the electrical system in his house, which has been fraying. Again, it's not a subtle metaphor.
But I think they executed it really well. And I'm really glad that they walked this guy all the way to the edge, and he just sort of shook his head and went back to the life he loved. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. And I thought this was one of the few episodes with a happy ending.
Yeah, I really liked this. I liked this one as well. I didn't like it as much as the previous one, but it had a good message. It had a message centered around putting away childish things and being a responsible adult about it.
A lot of people like to use that as like a cudgel to be like, don't buy action figures. But that's
not what it means.
That's missing the point.
It means shit like this.
Yeah.
It means don't let what the lizard hindbrain wants get in the way of doing the things that you need to do to have a successful life.
Yeah. Next episode was about masturbation. It's called Parallel.
I mean, look, someone does crank it in this
I just wasn't ready, is the thing.
Like, he fully cranks it, but and by it I mean his penance. But it is actually thematically masturbatory.
Yeah, but like in a poignant way.
Yeah, it's what happens when you are a person who is in a suboptimal situation, who fantasizes about a better life, and then you're forced to confront the reality of that fantasy from the outside in. You get to see, this is the life I could have had, this much better life that I would love so much more, and I can't have it because someone else is already here.
And so what happens is he switches to a parallel universe where he is married to a guy who is in a photo he found, and he thinks that photo's super hot.
Essentially, this guy, he gets to go to a parallel universe where his life is awesome and perfect and great. Problem, he's still there.
Problem as well, it's not as perfect and great as he initially thinks it is. Really, the only change is that the guy he's in love with exists in this universe, the guy from the photo, and is with him. They are partners. And also, I think his favorite jazz singer doesn't exist.
It's implied.
It is implied. And just kind of confronting that even if I had this perfect life, perfect lice are the ones that aren't on me.
Yeah. Even if I had this perfect life, there would still be things that are bad about it.
And I would still fuck it up by being who I am. I'm not going to go into how they illustrate this. Actually, I think it's really good to observe it if you want to watch Tales from the Loop. This is not the episode I'd recommend. But if you want to see a little more in depth about the tragedy of the character, and this is another one that ended with a little bit of hope, too, and I appreciate that. It's sad, but it's a really great, more than any other episode except maybe the previous, it's a fantastic character study.
Yeah, you really get to know, this is, again, one of the episodes that isn't about the central family, and thus is improved by it. You really learn Gaddis, the security guard's name. You really learn this guy. You really learn a lot about him. You get to see him in a lot of different situations. and his parallel universe duplicate, who is the same guy. There is no variance. And it's really good. It has an interesting moral. It kind of rushes there at the end of the episode. But it does have an interesting moral. It's well done.
It wasn't bad. Really, if it weren't for the unexpected
Cranking
it, I think I would have been a lot less. There is a lot of, like, I don't know, sitting outside of a house staring into a window where two people are having sex and going, that could be me. And it kind of set me off a little bit.
Dennis is kind of a weird guy.
Yeah,
He's like a weird, lonely dude who's never had a boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's not malevolent, but he does kind of give off incel vibes.
Before incel was a weaponized philosophy, I think he's a pre-incel.
He's just, doesn't fuck.
But I thought this was a good episode. Interesting character. My favorite episode is the next one, Enemies. It really gave me Stephen King vibes. It gave me the vibes of a lot of the books I liked to read when I was in elementary and middle school about people who got lost on an island.
This one is a good departure because it does largely take place outside of the town, on like a little island just outside of it. Big giant lake in Ohio somewhere.
Lake Ohio.
Well, maybe not. We don't know.
It's probably Erie. It's probably on fire.
Yeah. So
that's why Lake Erie got fucked up. Yeah.
I will say that of the things in this series, this is the only time I didn't call what the twist was.
Yeah, I wasn't trying in this episode.
Well, it's not that I'm trying, it's just that it happens. Like in episode 1, she touches the rock, the house is gone, and like 2 other things happen, and like this is 3 minutes I go, oh, she'd been sent forward in time. She got Rip Van Winkle. Like it's not like it's hard. These aren't mysteries. I'm not patting myself on the back. I am praising this one because I didn't see the twist coming.
His asshole friends abandon him on a spooky island where you're not supposed to go because of a monster.
And they really go to a lot of trouble to establish these 2 kids who do that as real tools.
They even like come back from it at one point and then are like there for like 5 seconds and go, wow, we couldn't find him, bye.
Like they establish them as real assholes. They kill an animal while laughing and make fun of a disabled person in the first 4 minutes of this episode. While the main character sort of stands in the background and watches, like, with a look on his face that says, I know this is wrong, but I'm way too much of a bitch to say anything about it.
And given the time period when this was,
I mean,
nebulously,
you just are choosing to become the person they... Like, that's choosing to get your ass kicked.
Basically, yeah. Tragic, unfortunate reality. So he gets snake bit while he's trying to survive on this island. His arm goes septic, and he confronts the horrible island monster. It makes a horrible, scary noise, and it terrorizes him as a child. Eventually, he gets found, brought back, and we come to the present where we find out this is George. This is the dad from the main family with his robot arm.
Who's just had a robot arm unremarked upon the whole series.
There's a brief point in the first episode where his wife from the past, who is the little girl, goes, your dad's got a weird robot arm. And Cole goes, yep. And they move on.
Yep. It's just a fact. And this is how he got that arm. And then it's revealed that the weird, scary monster who he had attacked, who was like a robot, and he attacked it. He like fought it off and knocked one of its arms off. Like, again, when he was like a teenager, so fully 25 years before this. It's revealed that it was the first sentient robot his dad, Russ, the High Sparrow, had made. And that guy's response to making a weird robot who could only speak in terrifying screeches was to put him on a boat and send his ass out to an island in the middle of nowhere, this sentient person, and leave him there for much longer, probably something on the order of like 30 plus years, never visit him, never tell anyone about him, and die without having done so.
Yeah, but George does the right thing. He goes back to the island and he tries to make peace with the robot.
Gives him his robot arm, and then in the future episodes and after this, he has a different robot arm.
Yeah. I really liked this one.
This is really good. I would like it more if it didn't piss me off so much.
Sure, it's offensive to your sensibilities. What a bad person did, but this is the son making right.
Yeah, George gets a lot of points for doing the right thing. For seeing the sins of his father and refusing to be blind to them and making it right regardless.
Well, and he's the best person for that because as he's been shoved aside by his father his whole life, he already is predisposed to think of the old man as kind of a jerk. So, he sees himself in the robot. The robot is his brother. And he goes and makes peace with his brother, and it's very beautiful. I liked it a lot. And there was something happening all the time. Unlike the other episodes where there's long pauses of just...
Yeah, this episode really... this is at episode 1 were the ones I watched without speeding them up. And I didn't feel the need to.
No.
There were no points where I was like, well, maybe I could have a little bit... No, I didn't feel the need to at all. This one, there was enough material here for the length of the episode.
I also feel like Control was like that. There wasn't a lot of moodiness, and what was there was pretty essential to, the plot. But that takes us to the final episode of Home. I really hated this one.
It is probably the worst episode of the series, and I don't think it's close.
They go to too many lengths to try and tie up everything, which I would understand why you'd want to do that. But in doing so, they kind of lay bare all of the flaws of this series.
Basically, you took an impressionist painting and you zoomed in too far. All you got is dots now.
Yeah. The short explanation is Cole finds out from Body Snatcher that his brother is still alive inside the robot.
Body Snatcher finally comes clean. What is implied to be several months later.
So...
Maybe a year?
Who knows? But Cole goes and finds his brother. It is his brother. And he tries to bring him back, but unfortunately he's lost in Loop Woods, which have been established to be fucked up and weird.
But the funny thing is he's not even. He finds him immediately, and they try and go to the Loop to get his mom, because she's the Loop lady. She'll probably know how to fix this. And then, and this has been established, this is an established character trait for Cole, so this isn't a criticism of the storytelling, because this is the shit he did in the episode with his grandpa also. Instead of waiting the rest of the workday for his mom to come home from the city where she was doing important business or whatever, so he could tell her that night, just like a normal person, Cole immediately sets off to walk to the city with his robot brother, completely unnecessarily, and it takes so long, they have to camp overnight, which again, if he had just gone home for that period of time, this issue would have been solved.
Sure. Kids make stupid decisions, so...
Yeah, look, he's a kid. He's dumb. It's perfectly realistic and established. It's well made. It's just very stupid and frustrating.
So another stupid thing comes out of left field, and there's an evil monster robot who is not the robot from last episode. It's a different... This is like a Dinozord that attacks them.
And then, Brother Robot beats his ass.
But does receive a minor injury that ends up being robot fatal.
Because
reasons.
Because why would losing one of your legs kill you if you're a big robot? Reasons.
So as part of his mourning and searching and wandering through the woods, he crosses over the magic time river, which if you cross while frozen...
No.
Or something stupid...
Yeah, it is stupider than that.
You have a time, and then time is timier. I'm explaining this well, given the source material.
He crossed it while it was frozen, it thawed, and then he crossed back, and then it froze again. So because he crossed it back, not away from the town, but back into the town while it was thawed, and then it froze again. That apparently time jumped him forward 30 years.
Like, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because he like puts a ball in it and it comes back from the other side of the stream, which I mean, it clearly
That's not. You're not even following the incredibly impressionist, incredibly loose, incredibly logic doesn't live here. That's not where logic doesn't. That's leave logic at the door. It doesn't belong here. Rules you've established. That's okay. So the thing about speculative fiction is it doesn't matter what the crazy bullshit is, right? Wizards and dragons, or things that let you go faster than light and shoot laser beams, or like. The two together, and it's Star Wars. It doesn't matter what the stupid bullshit is, so long as it's internally consistent, it all works. The story works, so long as whatever dumb rules you establish, you follow. And if you're not even following the incredibly loosey-goosey, like, nothing rules you establish throughout the rest of this series, if you can't even do that much, it's gonna come across real stupid and arbitrary. Which it does. Here.
There's also a reveal that a teacher who was in many of the previous scenes is a robot.
She's the teacher in all of the episodes where someone is a student. And that includes multiple generations of kids throughout, like, a 20-year span, and she's always the teacher. And at the end, it's revealed she's a robot. That's why she's always the teacher. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, like, she says a line, ironically, from Ratatouille, that is meant to be pretty poignant, and, like, taken out of context it is, but in context, it's just a weird fucking thing to say and do.
Yeah, pretty much.
But, like, it ends on a decent kind of philosophical note. Life goes on. We see a grown-up Cole visiting his childhood home with his family, as was kind of referenced back in the Echo. And
he doesn't know who lives there anymore, and like one day he too will grow old and die. Time is unstoppable, time is immutable, you cannot win, entropy wins is the notational message of this show.
Unless you cross the time river while it's flowing, but then cross back over it when it's not.
And then,
then time and entropy
unwins?
Look away for a second. I don't really fully get that. So it sucks that this series starts and ends on such mediocre notes. Because I think if you just listen to us talk about the rest of the episodes...
Like, you can hear the rest.
Yeah.
Like, we liked a bunch of the middle of this series quite a bit. Starts on a mediocre episode, ends on a bad episode. I am fully prepared to call that bad.
I think if you are a parent, there's more for you there than us.
Absolutely.
Who are non-parents.
Absolutely. This might be singing in a frequency I can't detect.
Yes. But I can't know that. It's just, based on my observations of the world, I draw this conclusion. And if it has at all sounded interesting to you, by all means, give it a watch.
We've just spoiled the whole damn thing.
Yeah, sure. But if you're still, hey, some people don't care about spoilers. I thought this was neat. I'm glad on the whole that I was suggested to watch it.
Yeah, I'm happy I watched this.
Yeah.
Because the middle episodes, the ones that are good, are real good. They're fun.
The final scene of Enemies is going to stick with me for a really long time. So is the masturbation scene from the other episode.